today. First of all, our new principal at Robinson Elementary, and I don't see her. I don't know if she's made it. She may come in a little bit later. She may be in personnel signing up and getting ready. But our new principal there is Miss Phaedra Blake, and that's going to be at Robinson Elementary. And when she comes in, I'll certainly, I want you to be able to meet her. We also have a new assistant principal at West Ouachita High School. She's moving from curriculum coordinator to the assistant principal of curriculum, and that is Miss Tressa Farah. Tressa's here. Tressa, congratulations to you. Also, Riser Middle School assistant principal, Mr. DJ Davis. DJ, congratulations, man. And if I'm make sure I'm right here, I believe you actually attended Riser Middle School. Is that right? It is correct. I thought so. We love having home folks there serving in leadership roles. So congratulations to you also, DJ. So that is and I see her coming. Look, she's making her grand entrance into the Ouachita Parish school system. This is Miss Phaedra Blake, who is our new principal at Robinson Elementary. Phaedra, congratulations. Certainly look forward to working with you at Robinson.
Thank you all so much. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm really excited.
All right. Board, I do have some positions that I'd like to request that we open at this time. I think that, and I don't know if she's in here. Is Mary Duzan in here? Mary, are you hiding back there? Step in, please step in. Mary Duzan is the best testing accountability coordinator in the entire state of Louisiana. I'm telling you, she's that good.
Man, can I ask her to take her mask off so I can recognize you?
She will. And the smile, the smile is because she is retiring.
Oh.
And with her retiring, we are going to do a little reshuffling in our curriculum and instruction area that Curtis Pate is director over. We're actually, and you notice on the agenda today, that Mary has been a supervisor in this area. We're going to actually go back to a coordinator position, but we're going to split the duties. And this is coming with full recommendation from Ms. Duzan because this job is an absolute monster. When I tell you testing in high schools are 12 months out of the year. And so we felt like it was in the best interest of our district at this time to move, a lateral move, Mary Beth Holzer, who has kind of been groomed for the elementary middle school assessment and accountability coordinator, will be moving into Mary's office. And the position that we'd like to ask you to open is another assessment and accountability for high school that will also be working with the instructional team, probably in one of the subjects that we're needing some work in for our high school assessment and accountability coordinators. So we're not creating any new positions. We're not naming a supervisor. We're just shifting folks around. So that would be one. We also have a principal that is retiring. She's not with us today, but talked with her this morning. And she had indicated that she wanted to and then decided not to. And last night, she got peace about retiring. And so Ms. Sharon Sanders, principal at George Welch Elementary, is retiring. And so I'll be asking you to open that position also, the principal at George Welch. And with Tressa going in from the curriculum coordinator into the assistant principal position, and she's going to be doing that assistant principal as the instructional person, that kind of leaves them one short. We're trying to mirror what we have at Ouachita High School with what we have at West Ouachita High School in the leadership team. And so we're not opening the curriculum coordinator position. And so what I would ask is that we open a fourth assistant principal position at West Ouachita High School. And Ms. Oakes and I have talked along with Mr. Geis on making sure that we are pretty consistent throughout the parish on the positions that we have at our schools. West Monroe has a few more leadership folks because of the size of the student population there, but there's probably 80 to 90 students difference between Ouachita and West Ouachita right now. So the three positions would be high school assessment and accountability coordinator, principal of George Welch Elementary School, and assistant principal of West Ouachita High School.
We have a motion and a second for these three positions.
I so move that we approve these three positions.
Motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Board moving down to business. Item number 1, consider an approval of policies. Ms. Cynthia Osmond.
Now you can hear. Good afternoon. In your folder, you have 2 policies that I'm asking for approval, holidays and testing program. I did email those to you again last week because I mailed them in March, just as a reminder. I asked for approval for those 2.
Okay. Board, do we have approval for these 2 that she sent out to us? And there's a letter right here. Motion and a second.
So move.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
I also have a list of 4 policies that I will be mailing to you for consideration,
Okay.
and I'll ask for approval next month. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, ma'am. Move down to item number 2, approval of changes to the Ouachita Parish School Board Policy, GBRK, annual leave vacation from 2020 to 21. Mr. Todd Geis.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Board, this is one of, I'm not sure what is to come, but one of our slight changes that is a spinoff or a result of the closure. Typically, our 12-month employees have until July and August to use their vacation days accrued from the previous year. With the closure and with employees not being able to take those vacation days, not be able to travel, we felt it was right to extend that for 1 year only. In your mail out, you had a mail out with a date of September the 30th. Dr. Coker and I actually spoke late Thursday after the mail out and thought that it would be fair, since we were closed 2 months, to extend that out for 2 months. So we're asking you just for the 2021 school year only, or for vacation days accrued during the 1920 school year, to allow our 12-month employees to October the 31st, 2020, to use those days. We felt like that would stretch them out, and all of our employees wouldn't be going on vacation in June and July when we have so much to do in August preparing for next school year. So that's our request this morning.
Okay. Do we have a motion and a second to approve the assessment of this vacation for 2021?
I move,
Go ahead.
I move we grant permission to extend the sick leave days or time. As he
Vacation.
requests, vacation time as he requested.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board?
Just as an add-on on that, Todd and I did talk about this, and, you know, we didn't know whether to do it in September or October. So we're actually giving our 12-month employees the benefit of that extension. And the reason, big reason, is that we don't know what August, September, October is even going to look like. And so as we move into this next school year, we're going to be able to afford some of our employees that opportunity to use those days instead of lose them, because the policy is if you hadn't used them by a certain time, then you pretty much lose them. So Todd, appreciate you working on this also.
Any more discussion from the board? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Moving down to item number 3, approval of assessment and accountability coordinator job description. Mr. Geis?
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Board, again, you approved just a few minutes ago the creation of the assessment and accountability coordinator. We have spent a lot of time over the last 2 years making sure that our job descriptions are current, board approved. So I just bring you this job description for the position that you created earlier. and ask for your approval of this job description. And it will be included or added to our personnel evaluation plan that's available online for all of our employees.
We have a motion and a second to approve the assessment and accountability coordinator's job description.
I so move that we approve the Assessment and Accountability Coordinator job description.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 4, Finance Committee report. Mr. Geis?
Thank you again, Mr. Hicks. Board, just very quickly, we had a very brief Finance Committee meeting last Wednesday here in the boardroom. 2 items were on the agenda. You have a copy of that agenda and copies from the minutes from the February 27th Finance Committee meeting that were approved. We did have a report from Ms. Bennett on cash investments event schedule for the general fund. And then the Finance Committee unanimously approved the 2019-2020 budget revision number 1 that Ms. Meekus will present to you here shortly today. That was the extent of our Finance Committee meeting. So I'll just give you this in the form of a report. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Does the board have any questions on the financial report? Mr. Geis? Thank you, Mr. Geis. Moving down to item number 6, consider budget amendment number 1 for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. Ms. Meekus?
We also have the financial report for April 30th, 2020. But actually with this budget amendment,
They cover the same period, so I'll hit the financial report very briefly and then talk more about the budget. You see in your April 30th, 2020 financial report, the general fund is ending the period with a current ending fund balance of $40,232,762. Of course, take into consideration that we still have months of salaries to come out that we have accrued revenues for over the year. And we are currently preparing the summer payrolls and going through the process of getting ready to close the year out. In the district M&O, half-cent sales tax, we are ending the year, ending the period, not the year, with a fund balance of $18,477,633. The 1968 sales tax and the 1995 sales tax, the fund balance is $6,386,552 and $3,730,561 respectively. And as you know, those 1968 and 95 sales taxes come in and go out. We distribute what we collect in salaries for the 1968 and salaries and benefits for the 1995. Now, West Ouachita sales tax, with all of the activity with the sales tax, we've been watching very closely. West Ouachita sales tax seems to be holding strong at this point for the year, ending the period with a fund balance of $8,579,573. Special revenue funds, on the middle page, we'll discuss more in the budget, as well as debt service funds on the last page. If you will, look all the way to the, sorry, not on the last page, on the last page of the financials. If you look all the way to the right side of the page, you have your capital projects funds, and you can see East Side Bond Construction, as of April 30th, has a balance of $115,000. I know you'll be looking later today to commit some of those funds. And West Side Bond, we were able to close out earlier this year and use the remainder of those funds. And the last 2 pages, year-to-date summary of your revenues, expenditures, and your fund balance for the general fund and the District 1 M&O.
anyone have any questions on the April 30th financial report? Okay,
We have a motion and a second to approve the financial report amendment number 1 for 2019 and 20. We have a motion and a second.
I move we approve the financial report as presented.
A second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
next item on the agenda, the annual operating budget revision number 1. You have a cover page that gives you basically a summary of the major changes from the original budget to the amended budget as it's presented. And I won't go through and read those to you, but I'll just hit a few highlights. One, if you look at the general fund budget, each budget is presented in summary by function and then summary by object. By function tells you whether it's instructional, special education, or regular instruction, special education, maintenance, business, administration. And then the object would tell you basically the same information broken down, more related to categories, salaries, benefits, materials and supplies, purchase services. So you'll notice in your packet you have 2 summaries for each fund. In the general fund, we didn't have a lot of changes in our expenditures for the year. The main changes that we saw the need to revise were in the revenues as related to tax revenues. By law, we need to be within 5% of our projected revenues. I feel like we will end the year very close to a 5% difference in our original budget for the revenues in the general fund, but it was just a little too close to say we didn't need to go ahead and revise it for the changes that we know have happened up to this point. Expenditures, you'll see in the general fund, remain the same. As we are very close to being what our original budget projection was for expenditures in the general fund. The district M&O, and on any of the sales tax or ad valorem tax budgets, you'll notice that the revenues have been adjusted with all of the changes in the current year. Same as the general fund. It was just too close not to go ahead and revise at this point of the year. But you have the District 1 M&O. The main change in that budget, besides the revenue, was adjusting to account for the purchase of buses made early in the year that was board approved earlier in the year. So I had to adjust the student transportation services. The 1968 and the 1995 sales tax have basically just been adjusted reflective of the tax revenues that we've had for the year, because all of the expenditures are directly related to the revenues that come in. There's a little bit of a timing difference. The 1995 sales tax is what we consider our 14th check that's distributed later in the year, so we have a little bit of a fund balance when we end our fiscal year. Basically, funds that will be accrued are being accrued and will be distributed in the 14th check. The 1968 sales tax is what we consider our 13th check. So we are getting ready to make that distribution now. It happens in June of each year. There's also a monthly salary component to the 1968 sales tax. So that's why you see a little bit of a difference in the accrual of the revenues projected at year end.
They just voted on
West Ouachita sales tax. The main change in the West Ouachita sales tax was just basically related to the projects that have been approved at this point. and where we think we're gonna be when we end the fiscal year, because we have some that will go beyond the fiscal year, even though, say we have a $2 million project approved, we don't anticipate a full payout of that before the end of the year, so we have to adjust this budget accordingly. Child nutrition, I think child nutrition would have had the most change of any other fund due to the effects of school closing on their revenue. Because while the general fund was able to continue receiving our MFP revenue, we continued to receive sales taxes, we continued to bring in our main revenues. Child nutrition does not receive revenue if they aren't serving meals. So while they did see a drastic decrease in their revenues, they also saw a little bit of a drop in their projected cost of food supplies mainly. When they're not serving lunches, they're not buying groceries. But overall, it had more of a negative effect on their revenue than was outweighed by the change in their expenses. What I had requested to the Finance Committee, what I had requested to the Finance Committee and what is in this budget, the practice for the child nutrition program as they end each year, the fund balance that they accrue in that year be transferred over to an equipment reserve, given that that is done in the following year. So for this year, we would be transferring over her fund balance surplus from last year, that we not transfer that amount over this year, allow her to keep it in her operating fund to offset the loss that she has from the close of school and the lack of operations this year. So that would allow her to end the year with a net change in fund balance in all of her funds of $1.3 million. Yes, sir.
When you were making those transfers at the end of the year of her fund balance, it was just going into sort of like an escrow account or what? How does it affect anything?
It goes into her equipment reserve. So basically, if she ends the year with a surplus, it goes into her equipment reserve to basically set aside to fund replacement of equipment, tables. And that's what she's using for the renovations at Shady Grove, her equipment reserve fund. So it just kind of, puts it back for whenever it's needed to replace equipment. But she ended the prior year with right at $1 million in surplus. So the request and the way this is prepared is to allow her to maintain that surplus in her operating fund to offset the loss she had for the current year.
Ms. Meekers, how much did our fund drop as a result of our not serving meals?
How much did she lose as a result of not serving meals?
Yes.
What I have adjusted the budget on the revenues is $2,058,000 that she lost in federal revenue as a result of not serving meals. And then
That's a big hit.
on the food services expenditure, which would mainly be your grocery supplies, that she saw a change. She saw an offset of the $2,052,000, but a lot of that was due to the cost of subs not being paid. There are a lot of other factors that go into that. That's not strictly groceries.
And that also includes the month of May when we did the Meals to You program that we had probably 6,000 students that participated in. The meals were being shipped from Texas through UPS to our kids for that month. And so the money that we got reimbursed on with federal monies for that doesn't go, normally that would go into our coffers in order to pay out our people, but because our people were not working, that is also a loss, although we were able to feed our kids. That makes sense. It gets kind of
Yeah,
confusing.
It came to us, but we had to end up paying people for Texas.
That's correct.
More like flow through.
That's right.
Right. At a much decreased rate because we weren't, you know, she feeds 18,000
Yeah.
kids a day
Right.
as opposed to
Yeah.
the 6,000. So that was where you saw the most effect of the school closing budget-wise. Now, the Title I programs, special education programs, the other federal programs, and other state programs, all of those budgets are cost reimbursement grant budgets. There's really been no change in the grant program itself. We just have to amend the budget at the end of the year to coincide with our fiscal year end. Whenever budgets are created and approved, they follow the guidelines of the timeline set by the state for that specific grant. But we come in at the end of our fiscal year and make sure that we're just budgeting what we're going to receive and spend in this current fiscal year. The last set of budgets you have are the combined debt service funds. These funds were amended basically due to the refinancing of the West Ouachita sales tax. With debt service funds, we're able to project actually very closely what our expenditures are gonna be because they're outlined in tables at the time we sell the bonds. But with the refinancing of the debt and West Ouachita, we'll see a savings to taxpayers in periods to come. But we did have to revise the budget to reflect that revenue realized from the sale of the old bonds and the expense realized from the purchase of the new bonds. And that was are there any, anyone have any questions?
We have a motion and a second to approve the annual operating budget revision number 1 for the fiscal year 2019 and 2020.
I so moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board? All in favor, yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Mr. Hicks, let me just take this time to thank Regina and her staff in business. This is a huge job. And when you're doing a revision this close to the end of when you're going to begin a new fiscal year, which is July 1st, they have been putting in a lot of hours and a lot of time. So we certainly appreciate you and your staff for the job that you've done on this.
Yes.
You bet. Moving down to item number 7, agreement between the MC School-Based Health Center and West Monroe High School and the Ouachita Parish School Board. Mr. Elmanoa.
Mr. Hicks, members of the board, as you know, the School-Based Health Center is relocating at West Monroe High School inside the building. Ms. Parnell is here with the Morehouse Community Medical Center's entity. They will be operating as they have in the past, I think since 2015. The facility was there on campus, and they've been operating the facility since then. So this agreement, under consideration today, is a new school-based health center relocation cooperative endeavor agreement between the school board and MCMC. Basically, the term is, the initial term will be for a period of 10 years, starting tomorrow, terminating June 10, 2030. There will be option periods that will automatically renew for successive periods of 1 year for a total number of 20 renewal periods as long as MCMC is still operating the clinic. And so we've had extensive discussions regarding insurance and the operation of the facility. Mr. Lane, I think, is here from the high school, but basically the agreement is here today for your consideration and approval. Ms. Parnell's here if you have any questions.
I think you got some background back a couple of months ago, and so we're in the building outside, and it, I think it's sitting on top of a sewer line that prompted the need to move it inside the school. And so the Living Well Foundation, who originally created the partnership between our organization and y'all when we took the school-based health centers in 2015, is giving us $110,000 of the money to do the renovations. And then we're putting in the remainder of the funds to get it done, so.
And just as a point of clarity, we will be moving one side of the front wing. I think it's some art classes, and we're going to relocate Mr. Lane's office and some other offices, just to make sure he's a little more visible over at that school. Nobody ever sees him anyway, so that was a joke, y'all. So we are doing that, and that will be at the expense of the school system to do that. And then Katie and her group will come in and actually outfit the school health-based center that will be under the roof at West Monroe High School, which we think is going to be a huge benefit to our students and to that school overall. So we certainly appreciate the partnership that we have with y'all and the job that y'all are doing.
Ms. Chicks, we have multiple originals here. Ms. Parnell has somewhere she has to be, so I would ask you if you could go ahead and sign before we leave the meeting, to go ahead and sign, and then we can get it executed so we can have an original and Ms. Parnell can have an original.
Okay, sure.
When are y'all starting work?
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow? Finish when?
We're trying to get in by the beginning of school, so I know.
Okay.
Gentry Construction.
Let me see. You can vote on it. I'd go ahead and vote on it officially.
We just need a motion to approve
Right.
the agreement.
Yeah. I need a motion and a second to approve this agreement between the MCMC School-Based Health Center at West Monroe High School and the Ouachita Parish School Board.
I move to approve the agreement between the MCMC and Ouachita Parish School Board.
And I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? Y'all sure are a quiet audience out there. I don't get no discussions, but that's good. From the board. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Moving down to item number 8, update of the CARES Act funding, Ken Monroe and Dr. Coker.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks, Board. Dr. Coker wanted me to come and share with y'all the plans that we have for the CARES Act money that passed down from the federal government to us. The purpose of this money is to try to prepare our school system for remote learning, should we have to do that in this upcoming school year. Some of that money can be spent for sanitization, reimbursing us for some of the costs that we had for thermometers, for cleaning supplies and different things like that. But if you can see in your handout, each area category that they gave us to spend in is on that summary, on that form. There's two parts to the CARES Act. There is the formula funds that we have, which we're showing on this sheet today. And then there's the incentive portion, which is a competitive grant that the state has for us. And we have put several $1 million out there in the incentive program, but it's not on this sheet because we don't know what the state is going to grant to us through that process. But if you look there, curriculum, the first category, that's going to be books, software, different things that Mr. Pate's department is looking at to try to convert to online or at-home learning if we have to do that. A big thing for that is textbooks, or not textbooks, novels that they have to read. We usually have class sets If we have to go to teaching students at home, we're gonna have to have a book for every student. And so that extra cost is what we're paying for through the CARES Act. The non-public that you see there, that is a portion of the money that we had to give to the non-public school systems in Ouachita Parish. And so that was done by the student count, the proportionate amount compared to Ouachita Parish, the public system, and then all the non-public schools. And so that's the amount of money that they got. Professional development, of course, is training for the teachers, trying to teach a student at home and remotely is completely different than trying to teach a student that's sitting in front of you. So the training is in that. Then the sanitization, student devices. One of the main goals of the CARES Act is for us to be one-to-one, one device for one student. This amount of money, 1.7 million, it will get us to one-to-one with our student devices, plus give us some Chromebooks for each teacher in case they have to teach from their house if we have another stay-at-home. That will get us to that. Just a warning for that, we have approximately $400,000 that we budget every year for student devices. To keep up with one-to-one, Chromebooks have to be replaced every 6 years. Instead of $400,000, we're gonna have to budget probably twice that amount. Probably $850,000 a year to be able to replace those Chromebooks to be ready to keep the one-to-one ratio.
The one-to-one ratio, you mean each student will have access to a Chromebook?
That is correct.
This is all federal funded through the CARES Act, right?
That's correct. Now, that brings up another thing. This is one-time money. So whatever we spend for this, with this amount of money, we're gonna have to sustain with our normal, regular budget. So it's a gift and it's good, but we're gonna have to maintain that for forever. Once you start giving one-to-one, you can't take it back from them.
Right, and I think that would be with devices, but I do not see the sustainability with connectivity. That connectivity where we're doing hotspots within the district and things like that is not, I don't know that there's any district in the state that can sustain that part of it. And this connectivity would be like a 10-month period or something like that. So that's a big question that's out there. You know, right now, this is to prepare us in case we have to go distance learning, virtual learning, or whatever. And to be able, certainly want to thank Ken for his leadership in sharing this. I think we had several of our directors that were the core CARES team, and that was Mr. Monroe, Mr. Keegan, Ms. Autry, Mr. Geis, and Mr. Pate. And then they each had a committee under them. So we had 75 to 80 people within our district that had input and was talking about all of the way that we were going to spend this $5.6 million that we received through the CARES. And I think they did a great job of breaking it down. And you can see how this also went to non-publics. We had to take that off the top for the schools within Ouachita Parish that were non-publics. And that was some $350,000, $360,000. And so, you know, one of our goals was to try to get one-to-one. We're going to be able to do that this year, and I think that's going to be a huge benefit for our students, whether we're at school or whether we are doing some kind of distance learning. So, Ken, do you have anything else that you wanted to say? But just a breakdown on how that money was actually being distributed and spent, and I think you and Bobby were working on trying to order some Chromebooks today or this week.
We're going to try this week, and just to let everyone know, it will probably be November or December before those Chromebooks arrive.
What's the actual cost, projected cost on a Chromebook?
Per book?
We're thinking
per book.
$267 per Chromebook. $267.
On the connectivity, fee here that we're showing, the 1.4 million? If we don't use that, we have to return that, or how does that work?
We will just re-budget, move that, making a budget amendment, and put that into another area.
But we could use that for another area,
That is
like
correct.
buying Chromebooks or updating or whatever.
That's correct.
Yeah, and the good thing is, this is money we have. We know we have this money. We also applied for several million more dollars of incentive money that we will find out, when, Ken? I don't see Mr. Keegan in here.
I think it's the Bessie Board will approve that at their next meeting.
June the 18th or 19th, we'll know how much money in incentive that we may be getting to add to this for other things that we were looking for.
So, okay, what happens if a Chromebook is destroyed, comes up missing, or if it's broken?
We're working on an agreement between the school board and the parents so they can choose whether to purchase insurance at the beginning when they get the device, or whether they're responsible for paying for that device if it's torn up or stolen in their care.
Do we have any idea what the insurance would cost?
I do. It's $20 per year for the replacement of a Chromebook, which, when you look at it, we have 18,500 students. Multiply that by $20 a year, the school system couldn't afford to pay $360,000 a year for insurance when a Chromebook only costs $267, but we would have to have a loss of about 40 to 50% to actually pay for the insurance to pay for itself. And so this is something that, just like a textbook, you know, if a student loses a textbook, their parents are responsible for replacement.
So, and if the parent chooses not to pay the insurance, purchase the insurance, then they're responsible 100% for the repair or the replacement of the Chromebook.
Correct. And we haven't finalized that yet. We still have to get together and look and see exactly how we're going to do that and responsibilities, the different responsibilities for that.
Right, because I'm not crying.
Right.
You know, there's a big difference between a parent who makes a family of $100,000 a year with one child and a parent who makes $20,000 a year with 6 children or 5 children or 4
Right.
children. Then
And
they run into
insurance-
they run into the same problem
Right.
that the district runs into. The $300,000 to the district may be expensive, but then for a parent, $300 with 4 or 5 kids may be. I just want us to just
Sure.
keep that in mind.
We kind of tested this past spring also. We put out right at 5,000 Chromebooks to our students. And to my knowledge, we've had about 4 or 5 that were probably damaged or broken, which is a good, for a 4 to 5 week period. Was it more than that?
I think it was almost 6 to 7 weeks, I think.
But how many do we know that were damaged?
To my knowledge, less than 4.
So, I mean, that's a good,
Real good.
that's a really good,
The most expensive thing to repair on a Chromebook is the screen, and that's about $150 to repair.
And is that mostly what the problem that we have with messed up screens? Drop?
Not for those 4. I think most of the 4 that we had, the keys popped off of it, so that's not very expensive. But the most expensive is to replace the screen.
Gotcha.
What all will be covered by the insurance?
Theft, vandalism, pretty much
Repairs?
anything. Repairs, pretty much anything is covered by that insurance.
What grade is this going to start in? First grade, kindergarten?
Pre-K through 12. Under the CARES Act, they made it to where you have to serve pre-K through 12th grade.
So this insurance is basically no different than a cell phone insurance that
Pretty much
99% of the people
Say it
have.
again, couldn't hear you.
about the same as cell phone insurance.
Speaking to my mic, too.
Any more questions for Ken?
And I did. I asked Ken to just kind of give you an update on, this is a lot of money, and how that money is being spent and distributed throughout the district. And, you know, even with pandemics and bad things, this is some good things that can come out of that. And so we are certainly making good use out of the money. And to be able to put one of these devices in every kid's hands it's a big deal for us.
I just want to say that I do want to commend the district and Ken for the work y'all are doing. This is phenomenal for every child, you know, whether rich or poor, to be able to access the internet, even with the connectivity for right now. And I want to commend the district for it.
Thank you.
Ken, thank you for that update on the CARES Act funding. Thank you. Thank you.
Are we gonna make 1/6 of this cost each year to build this up?
We are.
Okay.
That is the plan, and that'll come from
Question?
because the sustainability for devices, as Ken said, the budget is $400,000 right now, and that budget may be moving to $800,000. Like we do with our buses, we kind of bank it and we're preparing for it. That's the same plan that we would have to look at within the finances in order to do the sustainability of this technology. But it's something that, you know, one year we may not have to spend an entire amount, and that would still stay within the budget of what we're trying to look for as far as replacement. Chromes are like buses. Buses are every 24, 25 years, they go off. Chromes go off every 6 years. After that time, you cannot use it again. So, and I think that's because of the mechanisms that's involved in it and all that. Is that correct?
Google allows you to have it in their admin console for 6 years. And after that 6th year, then they take it off. And we can't control them, manage it.
Right.
So we just destroy them, we get rid of them?
There's several different things that you can do with them at that point. There is a state law that says if you're one-to-one, that you could actually sell that to the student for $25 at the end. And so you don't have to follow the same property rules of auctioning off surplus. It would become surplus equipment, and you'd have to follow the law, but there is a law that allows you to sell it to the students for $25 at the end of that 6 years.
Any more discussion? Thank you, Mr. Mr. Bob Jones, approval of the official journal.
Mr. Hicks, board members, in your packet are the quotes that I received back from the 3 papers. One came from the Free Press, one from the News Star, one from the Ouachita Citizen. Also included, since I was posed a question on the cost, what I did was I just basically took a snapshot of last year's bids and the board minutes, thinking that it's going to be 12. And each one of the, because of the way that I was getting the quotes back from the different publications, what I did was I actually included in the proposal a sample of board minutes, advertisement for materials and supplies, advertisement for construction. And so each publication actually submitted a cost back for each one of those. So what I did was I took a number from last year, and you can see on there, I'll just give you a quick on here. It says times run, that would be for materials and supplies. If it shows a 3, that would be for public works. And then at the bottom, I just included 12 or 1 month for each board minutes. If the board meets more than once, of course, we'll have an extra set of minutes in there. But that's totally based on the samples that were submitted to the different vendors, and I just multiplied everything out and then put a total on there. The difference on the News Star is, if you look at the bottom, there's an amount of $410. That is actually to run or to obtain an affidavit, which they charge $10. And I got clarification, it is $10, and it will cover, so instead of one time, like if I run 3 public works advertisements, they only charge for one affidavit that clarifies that it was run 3 times. So I'd originally thought it may have been for each time it was published. I've also had a discussion with Mr. Noah this morning, sort of called him at the last minute. We haven't quite gotten to a clarification on it. And I also spoke to Ms. Meekus from standpoint of the way the auditor would look at it. We may not even have to have that. So that cost may not be incurred if it's not required. So I just wanted to just point all those things out. And I have no recommendation for the board. It's strictly let you all decide. I will be here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
Then, Mr. Hicks?
Do we have a motion and a second to approve the official journal?
I move that we approve the News Star as our official journal for the 2020 to 2021 year.
And a motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience,
Bobby?
from the board?
I'm sorry. I apologize. Mr. President, thank you. I'm just sort of trying to quickly peruse this
Yes, sir.
and trying to get an understanding of each one.
Okay.
I think the first one is, I assume it's from,
The first one that you should have, Reverend McCoy, is the Free Press. It should have a little fact page in front of it.
I see it now. I got it.
And then I also, when the News Star, I put at the very top of the page on the facts that they submitted back to me, it shows News Star.
I see it. I see
And
it.
then the last one should have a letter in front of it from the Ouachita Citizen.
So by these documents, the News Star has the least amount of inside the parish coverage?
Based on what they submitted, Mr. Wagner, that is correct. I mean, they were only showing like 1,500. But this is what they submitted back to me. The paid circulation number inside the parish, they're showing 1,523, and outside is 7,926. I mean, I didn't alter these documents. I just printed them off from what they sent. And I didn't, the only question I had for any of the publications was the cost of the affidavit. I did not ask any other questions but that.
Okay, so, Free Press has 5,000 paid circulation inside parish and 10,000 outside parish.
That's what they showed, yes, sir.
Okay. News Star has 1,500 inside and 7,926 outside.
That's what they're showing. Those are their numbers, not mine.
Okay.
All these documents came to me just the way they are. So,
So when you submit an affidavit or a notification, where do you submit these notifications to each paper? Somewhere local, or you have to
okay.
go online? Or what do you-
Currently, what I do is I send a Word document to the Ouachita Citizen, to Ms. Heather Card. All that is sent electronically. And I usually send those on Mondays. And I email her, and then I request I don't request a read receipt. I actually request that she email me back and say that she does have them and that the notice is gonna run as requested, and she always does. And on some cases, if it's a very critical item, like for the notice that we sent out for the emergency, even though she does respond back to me in an email, we always call too, just because of the urgency of it.
So you're dealing with someone local?
Yes.
Would that be the case with the other two?
Well, I know for the Free Press, yes. And as far as the News Star is concerned, the lady that I spoke with, to my knowledge, she is here in town.
Bobby, you and I talked a little bit yesterday about the bids that were submitted and the pros and cons on all three parties. Talk a little bit about the daily subscription for the News Star, how does that benefit us as a school board? Does it give us a little more quicker time for bids to be come back in and so forth? Would you elaborate a little bit on that from what we talked about?
Yes, sir, Ms. Manley, the only thing I can say from that perspective would be, like, we're having a meeting today, it's at noon. The noon cutoff for the citizen to have a publication in by Thursday, we would actually have to wait until the following Thursday to be able to actually have that run. With other publications that would publish every day, not being able to do it on Friday on Saturday or Sunday, provided that that Friday would not be a holiday, we could, the chances of getting it in the same week of the board meeting is, I won't say it's 100%, but it may be up around 90%. So you could almost save a week's time between a publication that's running once a week versus one that's running every day.
In the cost comparisons, it's pretty close to the same. The Citizen might be a little bit cheaper, but as far as board minutes, producing those weekly, the News Star is a little cheaper on just regular board minutes, right?
That's what was submitted back to me, Mr. Manley, again, based on what they were given.
Well, let me ask you about the free press.
Yes, sir.
Is it cheaper or more?
According to the spreadsheet that I worked up, they are the least expensive of the three.
Okay. Who has a greater circulation inside the parish? Based on the information that you have.
Based on the information that I have, the one with the greatest circulation in the parish
Yes.
is the Ouachita Citizen.
Okay.
Because they're showing 7,434 versus 1,523 versus 5,000.
And the cost between the three, News Star would be the,
They're in the middle,
in the middle.
yes.
Okay.
And that's even if we pay the cost of the affidavit. And that's based on looking at last year's bid notices and the number of board minute meetings that we would have in there. I can't be precise on.
I understand.
On the cost. I can only base it on the information that I was given from the publications and what we did last year.
I'm just trying to
That's
look
about
at.
I've never really done this part of it before, but I was anticipating any questions that may come up. So that's why I went ahead and spreadsheeted it out, so everybody would at least have a chance to look at it.
Okay. Just trying to look at the pros and cons, that's all.
I perfectly understand, I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay. So the,
Are we gonna vote on this or entertain Oceans to, on all
Got a
three
motion
of
and a
them?
second on the floor already. Is there any more discussion?
yeah, well, I was asking questions. I thought, am I out of order at this time? Oh,
No, that's what I say. This is discussion. It's time to talk about it right here.
okay.
What?
Yeah, I was trying to get the pros and cons. So News Star's sort of in the middle, right there. They have the greatest circulation overall.
Yes,
Right.
overall. 7,926 total, which is the greatest circulation overall. Is that right, Bobby?
Well, if you look at the three, what was submitted, Mr. Manley, if I look at what the Free Press submitted, they're showing an inside circulation of 5,000, outside of 10. The circulation for the News Star is 1,523 versus, and plus 7,926. So that's the 9449. And then the Ouachita Citizen is 7,434 in the parish and 427 outside the parish. Sorry, my glasses are fogging up.
I have an issue supporting the News Star versus a local, either one of the two local papers. I just feel like we should support our local people.
Is there any more discussion?
When you say local, Scott, when you say local, you don't consider the News Star or the Free Press as being local
Consider the Free Press being local, yeah.
Okay.
Locally owned. I mean.
Yes, I understand. Okay.
New Star is a Gannett paper.
Okay.
Could I make a substitute motion to move that we approve the Ouachita Citizen as the official journal?
Yes, you can. Yeah, he's talking to him or me?
Somebody.
I move, make a substitute motion
Yeah.
for the Ouachita Citizen to be the official journal of the Ouachita Parish School Board.
Okay, we have a second?
A second.
A second?
Can I make an amendment?
Yes.
Let's rotate it.
That the Free Press become the official journal.
Do we have a second? Don't have a second.
Okay.
Now, we,
Motion dies for lack of second.
I never had to do this.
Now you go back to
Go
the-
back to this.
Go to the
So
substitute.
substitute motion, we gotta go to it, so we got a motion and a second. All in favor, yes?
For,
Yes.
I would suggest you do a roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call vote? Yeah, okay. Roll call vote.
this is for,
This is for,
this is,
This is substitute motion roll call,
Substitute
right?
motion, roll call vote.
Roll call and substitute.
I don't believe I ever had this to happen, but here we are.
Mr. Coman,
yes.
Ms. May,
yes.
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Hicks,
Right now, I'm abstaining.
Mr. McCoy,
No.
Mr. Graves,
No.
Mr. Manley,
No.
Pass. So you have one abstention? You have one abstention, it's 3-2.
So we got,
Wait, we have two abstentions? or
3-3.
one abstention?
3 and 3.
3 and 3.
I'm sorry, okay.
These-
Vote,
You gotta vote.
Trevor McCoy, Mr. Manley, and Mr. Graves voted
No.
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 Okay, a 3-3 motion fails. If you have an abstention,
Voted.
it's 3-3.
Yes. These three voted yes. These three voted no. And you abstained.
oh, he wasn't gonna do that.
He did.
Go to the original.
So now we go back to the original motion?
Yeah, you do.
Okay, we're going back to the original motion. Roll call vote for the New Star.
No.
Mr. Coman,
No.
Ms. May,
No.
Mr. Wagner,
No.
Mr. Hicks,
No.
Mr. McCoy,
Yes.
Mr. Graves,
Yes.
Mr. Manley.
Yes.
We hadn't had this much fun in a while, man.
So now we gotta go back to another motion, huh?
No. Because the motion passed.
Motion passed.
Which one passed? You
I
voted.
voted no,
voted
it's
no.
4-3.
I voted no.
4 noes.
Well, the motion failed then.
No, yours did, so.
That's all.
There is no journal right now. We don't have a journal right now.
Both motions failed. Nothing passed.
Okay, well, all right, we'll bring it back to the citizen. Got a
Or
motion and a
another
second
motion.
for the citizen. We'll do another vote. Motion and second for the citizen.
Mr. President,
I move for the citizen, yes.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Harold, you got a question?
I do.
What?
Parliamentarian procedures and means that we cannot bring this back up at this particular board meeting because
I think the rules, I think
It's already been
Trevor McCoy's
voted on.
right. I think the policy and the rules of the board are
Right.
that if it gets voted down, you can't bring this matter back up at this board meeting. You can bring it back up at a subsequent board meeting, but if you have the substitute motion fail and then the main motion fail, then I believe it's gonna be deferred to the next board meeting. I don't
That's
think we
correct.
can have it.
That's fine.
According to board policy, I believe that's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bobby Jones.
well,
Mr. Hicks, I have another question, though. I will direct this to Mr. Noah. Are we supposed to have this in before July the 1? Are we
Well-
supposed to have,
I believe the statute says you to select it in the month of June, if I remember correctly. That's correct.
and I know that one other time, we had a discussion similar to this, but I don't think the motion ever came back up. We deferred it to a later board meeting
Oh,
in June.
Special election.
have to.
That's probably the best thing to do to be in compliance with the statute is to have a special call meeting later on in June. What I would recommend, because the statute says, I believe, is to be selected in June, if I recall correctly.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hicks, thank you, board.
Thank you. We'll schedule that meeting. We'll get that taken care of. Moving down to item number 10, construction renovation projects, Mr. Ken Slusher.
Yes, Mr. Hicks, board members, if you've noticed, both of the parking lots at Edgewood and here at the central office has been forward. The one central office has been striped. They haven't striped the one at Edgewood yet. And on their Woodlawn construction, I was out there last Thursday, and they were working, they were laying the pad, concrete pad, or bar of the concrete pad. But then we got all that rain this weekend, so I'm sure they're not working today, but we got a lot of good weather forecast, so maybe we can get back to work in Woodlawn.
So the central office is ready to go. How long will it be before we can actually drive on it, Ken, since it's striped and poured?
I think he told me 3 days,
Oh, okay.
so by the middle of the week, we should be able to drive on and park on it.
Now, who striped it for us?
Sir?
Who striped it?
They did, and it was under their contract.
Okay.
That's gonna be our parking? A, B, C, D, E, F.
It's not gonna have your name on it.
And
You
media
get
center.
in there first, you can park.
Put A on one, B on one, right on down the line.
That's a good idea.
Right here.
There's 12 parking spaces.
Don't need but one.
That's all I have, Mr. Hicks.
All right, thank you. Anybody got any questions for Ken? Thank you, Ken. Moving down to item number 10, evaluation of bids, Mr. Bobby Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Board members, in your packet, you should have bid tabs for chiller restoration at Ouachita High School, the band uniforms for West Monroe, the chiller at Sterling High School, and for some paperback books that actually turned into hardback books. But we'll start with the first one, the chiller restoration at Ouachita High School. Recommendation for train at $87,574.85.
Okay.
Under budget, huh?
For now.
Now, is that item number 2, did you say? I'm sorry.
No, so I'm sorry, that's bid number 4620, chiller restoration, Ouachita High School.
Ouachita High School.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Chiller restaurant, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna take each one at a time, we're going down.
Whatever you all want to do. Well, I can do them all, you can do them all at one time, it's fine with me.
All right, let's take items 1 through 4.
That'll be fine.
Get them out
Okay,
of the
so
way.
my first one, 4620, we recommend the train company at $87,574.85. The next item are band uniforms for West Monroe High School. The recommendation is from company Fruhoff at $109,564.40. If you see, the budget on that was $80,000. West Monroe High School has agreed to pay the difference on that of the $29,564.40. The next item is a chiller for Sterlington High School. Recommendation is for Mechanical Concepts at $51,420. And then the last item are books for the upcoming school year, and those items that are in bold print were low and responsive.
Do we have a motion and a second to approve bids 1 through 4?
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? On the board? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Thank you, Board.
Okay, moving down to
There-
this is number 5.
Yeah, there was a number 5.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hicks, board members, this is not a bid item, we got quotes. This is renovation of the kitchen at Sandy Grove Elementary.
Boone.
And, I recommend the low bid of Mentor Commercial Services, $35,950.
Okay. We have a
That's
motion.
the low quote of the three.
We have a motion and a second to accept this bid.
I make a motion to accept the bid.
Second motion.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board? All in
Yes,
favor, yes?
yes, that's
Yes.
discussion. I have discussion.
I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Okay.
Ken, on this, you know, I went down to Shady Grove a couple of times, once with Mr. Graves, and then once with a cafeteria manager, supervisor, cafeteria, and sort of took a look at a number of things. We've already dealt with the equipment, am I correct?
The equipment will be separate from what this is.
Right,
The equipment's separate and the walk-in cooler freezer's separate.
Right,
okay.
right. They'll come out of Jolene's budget.
Out of cafeteria.
That's correct.
This is M&O.
Right. No, this is East Side Bond. This is the remaining part of what we have on the East Side Bond right now.
Okay.
The 112,000, we still have money to be able to do some of the, some projects like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
This will address basically most of the concerns, all of the concerns, not most of them, but all of the concerns.
Yes, sir, all that was presented. Steve and I met the cafeteria manager and with the three contractors. And, she said she was satisfied with everything that was presented and everything that we told her we was gonna do.
I hear what you're saying. You're saying she was satisfied with everything that we said we were going to do. And my question is, does it address all of the concerns? Because there were several concerns that I pointed out. Now, I know the equipment comes out of a different budget, out of Ms. Carrero's budget, but there were a plethora of things that I pointed out when I went there that I just thought we could do better, because this is Ouachita Parish Schools system. And
Are they on that list? To be done?
yep, several of them are on this list, and let me say, I apologize. I'm almost 70 now, and I don't remember as well as I used to. No offense. But many of them on here, I want to make sure, you know, if all of those concerns were on here. Looks like many are on here.
We had a list that someone prepared in you or Dr. Coker, the cafeteria manager, and we went down that list and everything that was on that list, we covered it.
Okay.
And a couple of extra things.
Yeah, because Miss Carrera, she added a few things that I didn't see, and so if those are here, that's fine with me.
And we found a couple of things that wasn't on the list that was
Thank you.
deferred, like the vent hood, it's not working properly. It's gonna have to be resurfaced, and that wasn't on our list. And
Mr. Structure is already written down school starts.
yes.
This would be, just to make sure, Reverend McCoy, I think some of your concerns were the flooring. This would be new flooring in the kitchen part, repainting. It should look like a brand-new kitchen when we finish with it. Repaint throughout, relighting in the kitchen part. By the time we get in our walk-in freezer and cooler, that should take care of any of the mildew, mold, things like that. You know, I actually went in the kitchen, I looked up, and you can see from the kitchen part straight up to the sky. And so by filling and replacing some of that, that should cut down on any type of mold issue and things that we have. So that was the part I was concerned with.
Right.
And that, we're handling that separate, that's not on this list.
Okay?
Right. Ms. Carrero mentioned also at one point in our conversation, when we were down there, the possibility of moving those freezers from one location to another location, providing that there's enough space to do that.
If that's what she wants to do, she's welcome to do it.
We had talked about that, and Stephen and I was out there meeting with Ms. Spivey, and I think Ms. Spivey was thinking that also. I think they were thinking that because that's where they feel like the mold was originating and coming in from. But after further looking into it, and Stephen, you can address this because I know you were out there. Mr. Hemphill? We're in this meeting. You can address that. We were out there and about moving the freezers and the walk-in and stuff like that, and I don't think that the plans, it's to replace but not to relocate. And I think with the replacing, that should take care of.
Replacing it will help, putting it elsewhere, there's no room in that, the way the kitchen is, there's no room outside to put it outside the building.
Right.
It's gotta be right where it is now. To accommodate, you know, the easy access for the ladies. You freezer and cooler's gonna help solve the problem for you.
Any more discussion? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Now the permission to bid, Mr. Jones?
Mr. Hicks, if you don't mind, I'll take the 221 and, the 921 and 1021. That's the new construction, 221, the new construction at the new Bowley Elementary School.
Okay.
With a budget of $9 million.
Okay.
And the 921 and 1021 are the roof replacements at Pinecrest and Linville.
Okay.
We split that up into two.
That's Adams one.
Projects, so we was thinking we'd get a better bid.
Yeah.
And all three of those bids will open on July the 9th.
Okay.
So the two roofs are separate.
Two roofs and
We'll
new
open
construction.
bids, one of them at 10, the other one at 10:30.
Is that July 8th, maybe? Because the board meeting's on,
Thursday was the 9th.
Wednesday.
Thursday's the board meeting at 12 noon, so we need to open them on the 8th.
On the 8th, you're right, the board members, the board's on the 9th.
Right.
Open on the 8th, not the 9th.
All right. That's Adams 1, 3, and 4. So we have a motion and a
1,
second.
3, and 4?
Put these in,
3 and 4.
permission to bid.
I move we grant permission to bid on these three items.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board? All in favor, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, Mr. Bowden Jones?
Okay, Mr. Hicks, have band instruments, which we generally bid out at least once a year, and we've had some requests for instruments, so we're gonna put that out for bid. Classroom books, this will be for the second 9 weeks, I believe, that Mr. Pate has requested. And then large cafeteria equipment, Ms. Carrero actually sent me a list of that, and I left it on my desk. I apologize for that, the actual equipment that she's purchasing. And then the last thing is Mr. Manley's favorite, fresh produce.
I was wondering where that'd been the last couple, 2 or 3 meetings.
You know, we just didn't want to, we just
guess
wanted to make
COVID
sure we got it in before the year was out, Mr. Manley.
COVID-19 took care of the last couple of months.
We have a motion and a second for items number 2, 5, 6, and 7. Put them out to bid.
I so move.
I second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr.
Ms.
Hicks. Thank
Jones.
you, board.
Board, our next meeting is July the 9th at 12 o'clock. Dr. Coker?
Uh,
Do we need to schedule one for this month?
Yep,
This month.
We'll have to do it in a
special meeting.
Well, that's our next regular meeting. I'm gonna have to call a special meeting, but I'm
what's it?
gonna find out when everybody can be here. I didn't skip over it just for that, because I'm gonna schedule that when I get a day for everybody and a time. Because sometimes you'll have a bunch of them gone on vacation and different that, but we'll have one pretty quick. I hope in the next week, maybe 2. Okay?
I know you had one other thing in your packet, and Kenneth, I'm gonna let you kind of tell them, this is just for your information, not to be voted on or whatever, but it probably will be coming to you in July, the section 32, and we are gonna be finding more information out on this. Ken, you wanna tell them what you know?
Yeah, this is a request from Energy for a right-of-way, on Bill Wink Road. I have no idea where it's at. I got with Stephen, We think it's off of,
It's off of Cypress School Road.
off of what?
Cypress School
I was
Road.
gonna say, it's more than mine.
Yeah.
And this is supposedly, according to the court records, it's 2 acres of land that was donated to us, and, for the purpose of the school. And, that's all I really know about.
Is that around Lapine?
It comes off of Lapine, or it goes from Cypress to Lapine.
Okay. Well, this is something you certainly want to look at to bring back a recommendation.
The Weyerhaeuser owns all the land, I think, around it.
Right. I see where it is. I know where it is.
You know where that 2 acres is?
Well, from looking at this, I got a pretty good idea. Yeah.
So I'll bring it back for the next board meeting. Oh, yeah. Right away for them.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Adjourn.